Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I'm just noticing I didn't shave this morning. My apologies. Please understand it's uh, I mean no disrespect. Just a little discombobulated. Been on my, been on the phone a lot with my 83-year-old mom, and she's, uh, she's having issues with her computer and service people and people taking advantage of her, and it upsets me because she's in California and I'm here in Mississippi, and so we're too far apart for me to just go over there and fix things for her, and so it's frustrating. Want to help her out. So I'm a I'm a little discombobulated this morning. I apologize. But I'm so excited to do this video that I'd rather not pause and go back to the house and shave and all of that. Um, I really want to do this now. So um, no obstacles, right? Well, I hope you understand. Um, Daimoku Sansho, and we'll start on chapter 17 of the Lotus Sutra. Na Myoho Renge Kyo Nam Myoho Renge Kyo Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, something funny just went through my head. Um, Please don't start emailing me and commenting about your computer troubles. Although, you know, what the heck, I'm willing to help you with that too if it keeps you practicing Buddhism. Deal? Okay. Sorry. Feeling a little silly. I don't know how you guys are, but dealing with moms sometimes makes our weird little monkey in our monkey minds, our monkeys start jumping around and get back on track. In this version, this translation of the Lotus Sutra, chapter 17 is called The Variety of Blessings. Um, I'm not too keen on the word blessings because as Buddhists, again, blessings has that connotation of being given something from something else. Um, and as Buddhists, blessings, if we want to use the words, come from our own realizations. Merit is a better word because merit implies that you've earned something. It hasn't just been bestowed on you kindly because whatever. So the variety of merits, I think, would be a better translation. But be that as it may, at that time, when the great congregation heard the Buddha teach that the length of his life was such a large number of eons, innumerable, countless living beings received great, abundant benefits. Sorry, my glasses seem to be working weird. Then, more monkeys. Then the world-honored one said to Maitreya Bodhisattva, the great one, Ajita, when I taught that the length of the Tathagata's life is very long. Notice he's saying Tathagata here, not me. The length of the Tathagata's life is very long. Living beings as numerous as the sands of 680 billion myriads of Ganges accepted the teachings of the non-arising of all things. Again, this is again, he's repeating the core of all Buddhist teachings right here. He's repeating it constantly throughout the book in different ways. But here, pay attention to what he just said. The length of the Tathagata's life. I don't want to confuse matters here, but the length of the Tathagata's life, length and life, imply to the samsaric mind time, correct? And what he's saying here is the length of that time is inconceivable. As we learn more and more about this core concept, it becomes more evident as we read that Buddha, Tathagata, suchness of this type, is truly timeless. It's another duality that exists only for us in samsara, in this condition, where a point in time or a point of time, remember a point, we learn from geometry, is a location, not an actual thing. That's important to remember when you're thinking about time, because time, being inconceivable, is both non-existent and encompasses all. That duality exists throughout the description of suchness of Tathagata. And the great opportunity of this lifetime that we're experiencing through our conditioned mind is an amazing opportunity to witness that very emptiness. A word which I have manipulated into potential. Because for me, the word potential implies there is without being. Potential is something that doesn't exist yet, but can. Like quiescent energy. It's very, very quiet, very calm energy that isn't being directed to anything yet, which a lot of you scientists are going to have a big problem with that, because to mathematics, energy is a function of something else. Energy is something that describes the movement of things, the forces of things. So when there are no forces, how can there be energy? But think of that energy as unperturbed by those forces, but still extant, but not extant in the sense of a thing. That's why in Buddhism we come to a word called nomina. There are phenomena, which are things that are created by forces using energy, but there is potential, unsubstantiated, undifferentiated, without forces, energy that exists only as potential. A bad analogy would be like, there is coffee, there is tea, there is soft drinks, there is fruit drinks, there is water to drink, but there is a lake. You cannot drink the lake. You cannot heat it and flavor it as coffee in itself, but it has the potential of creating all these other things. It's a bad example, I admit it from the start, because the lake is a thing, it's a phenomenon, but trying to get your mind to wrap around the idea of quiescent energy, of potential, of emptiness. This is the emptiness of Buddhism. It is not nothingness, but it is no thing. Hopefully I didn't confuse you. The reason I bring that up, though, is because in this sentence, he's talking about the length of the Tathagata's life is very long. And that in that length of Tathagata-ness, that suchness of clarity of mind, that's always been here, always will be, because time enables to, accepted the teaching of the non-arising of all things. What is the non-arising of all things? It's like a bit of a conundrum. Non-arising means potential. It's undifferentiated. So he's talking about the undifferentiatedness of all things. Kind of loops, it's like a Mobius loop, right? So the understanding and the teaching is that all phenomena, all things, thoughts, words, deeds, chairs, walls, grass, animals, you, me, are all fundamentally undifferentiated. This is the gateway to the idea of Buddhist oneness. It's not that we're all clumped together in a big blob. It's that we don't manifest as what we think we are in the first place. This is just a skillful means, our life is, of understanding the real truth of all phenomena is that they only exist ephemerally, temporarily, and that their greatest function of existence is to point to the fact that fundamentally they're ephemeral and impermanent. If you can grasp that, it is not to live your life in denial of thingness, but it is to live your life disconnecting your emotions, your monkeys, your attachments, your desires for things that fundamentally are undifferentiated. It's not a denial that you and I are alive. It's not a denial that everything we see and touch and taste and experience is real. It's simply a transcendent realization that all of those things that we enjoy with our senses, our consciousnesses, in Buddhism we have vision consciousness, hearing consciousness, oral consciousness, taste consciousness, touch consciousness. All of those consciousnesses are being entertained by stuff that is only here to entertain us. And it's temporary, just like a movie or a stand-up comic or a big bowl of ice cream. It's a temporary thing. And so enjoy it while, like Nichiren says, enjoy what there is to enjoy, suffer what there is to suffer, and then retire from that. Understand that those things are just temporary instantiations. Just stuff for you to experience. So don't get overwhelmed by it. Don't attach yourself to it. Don't hate it. Don't run from it. Don't run to it. Don't demand to have more of it. Just know that you experienced it and keep going. Detach and observe. What is all of this about? It's about living your life with less and less suffering. How is it that you're suffering less? Because you're less perturbed, influenced, attached, emotional about everything you experience. It's really not complicated. It's really difficult to do. All right. This is going to be 10 videos if I don't get on with it. But I thought that was an important point to make right off the bat here. He's really kind of going back into what he just got done saying, because he knows it's going right over a lot of people's heads. So he's getting back into it from a perspective of teaching. And 1,000 times more bodhisattvas, great ones, attain mastery of the incantation, Myoho Renge Kyo, right? The recitation, the repetition, that enables them to hear and to retain what they hear. We do Sancho every time I do one of these videos because I want to clear away the monkeys, create a clear path for you and I to communicate clearly so that you can hear what I'm saying and so that I can hear what I'm saying and so that you can then have effective questions, comments to come back to me in case something I said was distorted and you heard a distortion, so we can clarify it, because this is study. This is a sangha. This is using one another to practice together. Sorry, got distracted. And bodhisattva great ones, as numerous as the specks of dust in an entire world, delighted in being eloquent and unhindered in speech. Isn't that funny? Isn't that what I just said? So they learned incantation so they could retain what they hear and hear what they hear. And bodhisattva great ones, as numerous as the specks of dust in the entire world, delighted in being eloquent and unhindered in speech. So there's the direct relationship, right? And bodhisattva great ones, as numerous as the specks of dust in the entire world, attain the power of incantation, which enables them to make hundreds of thousands of billions of repetitions. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. And bodhisattva great ones, as numerous as the specks of dust in the 3,000 great thousandfold world, turn the irreversible Dharma wheel. What does turning the Dharma wheel mean? They're teaching. They're being an example to others, right? The bodhisattva path. And bodhisattva great ones, as numerous as the specks of dust in 2,000 middle-sized lands, turn the pure Dharma wheel. And bodhisattva great ones, as numerous as the specks of dust in 1,000 small lands, were assured of attaining supreme enlightenment after 8 rebirths. And he goes on, 4, 3, 2, 1 rebirth. He's basically talking about the different stages of realization. Some people, even in bodhisattva life way, have different karma, different obstacles to overcome, different monkeys to quiet. And so it takes longer for some people to attain. But the point is, it's guaranteed. It's there. It's not something you have to find, discover, unearth, go to. It's already here. You simply need to awaken to it. The Buddha wisdom, the Buddha mind, the Buddhahood, the Buddha nature, the Buddha is concurrent with all phenomena, because ultimately that phenomena is nomina. That all phenomena is potential. That potential is Buddha. Buddha wisdom, Buddha nature, Buddhahood is the realization of that Buddha potential while in the samsaric mind. And this is how we live a liberated life, a life liberated of sufferings. Ultimately, Buddhism is all about living a good life. It's not about waiting until you die to go to some special place. He's going to mention that again because he's dealing with a lot of sectarian students who think they've already got it. And we're chanting Amida Buddha, all hoping that when they die, they will gain entry to the perfect place. Well, how different is that from any other religion on the planet? Buddhism is not that. This is what he's talking about. Buddhism is realization in the here and now, in this life, in this moment. So that you can live this moment and the next in awe, in joy, in wondrous of the life. That was the whole purpose of him even working toward his enlightenment. his 6-7 years of privations, asceticism, almost dying from starvation, trying every Brahmin and ascetic form of discovery, of truth that he could find, until ultimately he said, bah humbug, all this stuff is just, it's crazy. And he sat down and he figured it out. And that was his enlightenment. That's why he founded Buddhism, his school of thought, realizing that even his previous asceticism was part of what led him particularly to this enlightenment. That's why he incorporated some of that in his early teachings, but it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary today. 2,600 years later, we've evolved to a capacity for abstraction and understanding of concepts scientifically and in our mundane world that doesn't require strange mystical beliefs. It's just obvious. It's self-experience. You will experience this. Okay? And it is for living life, not waiting. And living beings as numerous as the specks of dust in 8 worlds all aspired to supreme awakening. When the Buddha had told about those Bodhisattva great ones obtaining such great benefits of the Dharma, Mandarava and great Mandarava flowers rained down from the sky and were scattered all over the innumerable hundreds of thousands of billions of Buddhas seated on lion seats under the jewel trees. They were also scattered over Shakyamuni Buddha and the long extinct abundant treasures Tathagata on the lion seat in the stupa of the 7 precious materials. And they were scattered over all the great bodhisattvas in the 4 groups. Fine sandalwood and aloe powders and so forth, were also rained down in the sky. Heavenly drums. Here's that hyperbole again. This is trying to create this beautiful, serene picture of what it is like to finally release from attachments, from delusions. Then Maitreya Bodhisattva rose from his seat, bared his right shoulder, put his palms together facing the Buddha, and spoke in verse. The Buddha has taught a rare Dharma never heard before. The powers of the world-honored one are great. His lifetime is beyond estimation. He's still saying his lifetime, though. He's still hooked into the Buddha as a person. But at least he's realizing that whether he sees him as a person or not, his lifetime is not of this human type. It's transcendent throughout all time. Kind of a weird dichotomy to be keeping in the mind, but let's progress. Countless children of the Buddha, hearing the world-honored one analyze and tell of the enrichment they will obtain from the Dharma, have been filled with joy. Some at the stage of never backsliding, bodhisattvas. Some have mastered incantations, Myoho Renge Kyo. Some take delight in unhindered speech. Some have the ability to retain trillions of repetitions. Bodhisattvas as numerous as the specks of dust in 1,000 major worlds are all able to turn the irreversible Dharma wheel. Irreversible alludes to something Nichiren talks about and others of planting seeds. Is that once somebody hears Myoho Renge Kyo, or even a single word of this sutra, you've heard it repeated several times. If anyone hears such a word, a sentence, a phrase, and embraces it, captures it in their mind and embraces it, sees value in it, then that seed is firmly planted and it will undoubtedly grow. It happened to me in my life. I can trace back to the first times I heard Myoho Renge Kyo. I was very young and very uninterested, but still curious of all things Asian. I grew up around martial arts, so anyway, that's a story for another day. Bodhisattvas as numerous as the specks of dust in 1,000 middle-sized worlds are all able to turn the pure Dharma wheel. Buddhism. It's repeating what we heard about bodhisattvas at different stages. Thus, when living beings hear about the long life of the Buddha, they gain countless flawless and pure fruits. So this is when our perception changes from this being just a human personages to the idea of Buddha-ness as being an innate, inherent part of this life experience. We already, our minds are blown, right? Flawless and pure fruits. Also, living beings as numerous as the specks of dust in the 8 worlds. This is the lifetimes now. Mandara flowers, sandalwood aloes, rain down, jumble together, heavenly drums, wonderful censers of many jewels, burn priceless incense, which moves all around the Lord. The multitude of great bodhisattvas hold canopies with the 7 precious material, tall and wonderful, and in trillions of varieties, one above the other, up to the Brahma heaven, before each Buddha, so on and so forth. Such as these here are all filled with joy. The Buddha's name is heard throughout the universe, bringing abundant benefit to the living everywhere. All their roots of goodness help them aspire for the unexcelled. Then the Buddha said to Maitreya Bodhisattva, the Great One, Ajita, those living beings who have heard that the lifetime of the Buddha is of such long duration and have been able to believe and understand it even for a moment, will obtain blessings, merits, beyond limit or measure. Suppose they are good sons or good daughters who, for the sake of the supreme awakening over 80 trillion myriads of eons, follow the 5 transcendental practices. Now this is important. He's saying that these are good sons, good daughters. These are Buddhists, students, who for myriads of eons follow the 5 transcendental practices of generosity. Why is that transcendental? It's transcendental because in the normal way of things, human beings, like animals, are very competitive. We want, we gain, we win, we lose. That's all about the attachment game, right? And egos. So to be generous is to stand outside of that animal mechanism, isn't it? So it transcends the samsaric conditioning. Do you see? So generosity, morality, patience, that's a biggie. It is for me. Perseverance. What is perseverance? And meditation, leaving out wisdom. Compared with those mentioned above, the blessings they attain will not equal even 1/100th, 1,000th, or 1 part of 100,000 billionth. Indeed, such a comparison cannot be made either with numbers nor with parables or similes. If any good sons have such a blessing as this, they cannot fail to obtain supreme awakening. The world-honored one, wanting to say what he meant, once again spoke. Suppose someone seeking Buddha wisdom were to follow the 5 transcendental practices for 80 trillion myriads of eons. And during those eons, as alms and offerings to Buddhas, Pratyeka Buddhas, and disciples, and multitude of bodhisattvas, were to give rare and varied foods and drinks, fine clothing and bedding, or monasteries built of sandalwood and adorned with gardens and woods, if such people were to continue to give such wonderful varieties of alms through all of those eons and transfer the merit to the Buddha way, and if they were to observe the precepts purely and without flaw or fault and seek the unexcelled way that all Buddhas praise, and were they to patiently endure insults and live in a state of gentle harmony, not letting their mind be disturbed, even though various evils were to come upon them, and when people who think they have the Dharma and are filled with utmost arrogance make light of them and make them suffer, they would patiently bear even this. Or were they diligent and persevering, always strong in mind, there's that strong mind thing again, and will, for innumerable hundreds of millions of eons, single-mindedly never neglectful, for innumerable eons, dwelling in secluded places, and whether sitting or walking, avoiding sleepiness and always concentrating, were they able by this means to produce states of meditation and to remain undisturbed, dwelling at peace for 800,000 millions of eons. And maintaining this blessing of single-mindedness were to seek the unexcelled way, saying, I will attain comprehensive wisdom and attain all the states of meditation. If such a person for hundreds of thousands of billions of eons were to do such meritorious practices as those described here, their reward will still be surpassed by any good man or woman who hears me teach about the length of my life and believes it for even a single moment. This is directed directly at small vehicle Buddhism. When he talks about the length of my life, he's talking about the eternal Buddha in each moment. See, here's this seesaw again, like I said about time. A moment is an eternity. The eternal is in the moment. Tendai Zi in the 6th century really focused in on this in the profound meaning of the Lotus Sutra. This is from whence the Tendai concept of original enlightenment comes from. Is this duality of time and place, in that you can look out into the universe and go endlessly into the universe. Even when they talk about the edge of the universe, they're talking about the edge of the Big Bang, but not space and time. It just goes on. And when you turn inward with microscopes and electron microscopes and hadron colliders and get down to particles and subparticles, and you're touching on energies that now go in and out of, flicker in and out of existence. That's infinite. So the idea, like time, like everything else, is that all of it exists in a single moment, and therefore in that single moment everything exists. The 3,000 realms in a single moment, or thought moment, or thought experience, or moment, that is the basis of the cosmology and time, and this is what Shakyamuni here is talking about. People who hear me teach about the length of my life, in other words, not about the length itself, but the way Buddha transcends the idea of time, because of this moment is all is moment, and believes it even for a single moment, that wisdom, that spark, that enlightenment is more profound than all of these practitioners who've isolated themselves in monasteries and become experts and learned, and they don't have the profundity of realization that a person who gets this eternal Buddha in each moment concept. That's the key. If anyone is entirely free from doubts and misgivings and deeply believes even for a moment, their merits will be like this. Such bodhisattva who have followed the way for innumerable eons, hearing me teach about the length of my life, will be able to believe and accept it. Such people will gratefully accept this sutra and say, in the future, we too hope to have long lives for liberating the living. What did he just say? He didn't talk about long lives like we're going to live to 90 or 100. He's talking about transcendent life like his. So he's saying once again, in the bodhisattva way, such people will gratefully accept this sutra and say, in the future we too hope to have long lives for liberating the living as Buddha, but will be living in samsara as bodhisattvas, but we will have the eternal Buddha as the core of our life. Just as the present world-honored one, king of the Shakyas, at the place of the way, with a lion's roar, teaches the Dharma without fear, so may we in ages to come, honored and revered by all, when sitting on the place of the way, in like manner, tell of the duration of our lives. We all have this eternal Buddha potential inherent. It's inherent in everything. Aw, the beautiful cardinal, beautiful red bird, keeps trying to come in through my big window. Don't want it to get hurt. If there are wants to come in and chant. If there are any Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, stop. He's looking in here. You see him, Chloe? If there are any who are profound in spirit, who are pure-hearted, and do what is right, who, hearing much, retain it all, who understand the Buddha's words according to their meaning, such people will have no doubt. And in this is, you can find the lessons of study, practice, and strong mind. Study equals wisdom. Practice equals developing a strong mind, and a strong mind equals attainment. This realization. What's more, Ajita, if anyone hears of the long duration of the Buddha's life and understands its meaning, which is what I've been talking about, the blessings they obtain will be unlimited, awakening them to the unexcelled wisdom of the Tathagatas. How much more so if someone is devoted to hearing this sutra or causes others to hear it, or embraces it themselves or causes others to embrace it, or copies it themselves or causes others to copy it, or with flowers, incense, garlands, banners, flags, silk canopies, and lamps of fragrance oil and clarified butter makes offerings to the sutra. That's what's behind me, the altar. Such a person's blessings will be innumerable and unlimited and will give rise to the all-inclusive wisdom. This is the Bodhisattva practice. This is the reason for the altar. The altar contains Buddha, and it contains all our offerings, garlands, incense, candles, which aren't lit right now, the bell. All of it falls in line with the teachings of the sutra. Ajita, if any good sons or daughters hear me teach about the long duration of my life and believe and understand it deeply, they will see the Buddha always on Holy Eagle Peak, surrounded by a multitude of great bodhisattvas and Shravakas preaching the Dharma. There's another reference Nichiren uses to build the Gohonzon you can see behind me, because the Buddha is on Holy Eagle Peak. He's surrounded by a multitude of great bodhisattvas and Shravakas preaching the Dharma. And they will see this world, with its land of lapis lazuli, smooth and level, its 8 roads marked off with Jampagripa gold, Jabunada gold, and lined with jewel trees, its tall buildings, all made of precious materials, in which multitudes of bodhisattvas live together. If anyone is able to see such things, you should know that this is a sign of their profound wisdom, strong mind, and attainment, and understanding. Understanding being wisdom. Further, after the extinction of the Tathagata, if people hear this sutra and do not speak ill of it, but rejoice in it, you should know that this is a sign of their already having deep faith and understanding. How much greater is that of those who read and recite, receive, and embrace it? Such people wear the Tathagata like a crown. So here he's saying, if you practice correctly, you are awakening. Which is what Nichiren talks about. When we face Gohonzon, focus on Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, and we chant single-mindedly to fuse with Buddha, we are in fact Buddha. We are in fact in the Buddha mind, the Buddha nature, the Buddha wisdom. This is critical to understand, because there's nothing easier to do. All the asceticism, as he's already pointed out, all the asceticism that you can force yourself to go through, the monastic training, the diet, well, as he said, the generosity, the patience, the perseverance being what we're talking about here: study, strong mind, determination, right? Just sloughing away any obstacle and being generous and patient and persevering. All of that without focus on Myoho Renge Kyo is of tremendous merit. But it only aims at Buddha. And this is not the point of Buddhism. The point of Buddhism is to enter Buddha while living, while experiencing all these joys and sadnesses, all of these vicissitudes of life. Be Buddha now. Be in Buddha mind. Be in Buddha wisdom, so that the vicissitudes cease to control you, to affect you. Do you see? This is liberation from suffering. You can't be liberated by, well, someone might say the ultimate liberation from suffering is death. But that's not Buddhism. That is not Buddhism. The suffering we're escaping is while we're in this very life, so that we can experience something on a whole new glorious level. You can't experience anything after you're dead. You're just dead. There is no longer experience. Experience is something that only happens in this samsaric condition. So let's make this experience amazing, incredible. It already is. We're just deluded by all of these veils and curtains of ego, emotive influence, and attacks on our well-being. And we're the ones who are guilty of just accepting that. It's part of our condition, not something to feel guilty about, but it is something to understand so that we can surmount it. You have a choice when you're underwater. You can stay underwater, and yes, there's beauty in everything, and then inhale and die. Or you can get your head above the water, still be in the water, still be able to see all of the beauty and the amazingness of it, but breathe. Okay? I think before I go on, because there's a good bit yet, there's a lot of things crystallizing in this chapter from the previous teachings in the previous chapters. So I'm wanting to really dissect it as I go, which I think you probably already got. So I'm going to stop here because that's about 45 minutes. And I'm going to continue in part 2, which hopefully will wrap this up. And if it doesn't, we'll just make a part 3. No hurry here. Want to get it right. That's what's important. Thank you so much. Let's do Daimoku-san show so that we have a better chance of understanding what we just heard. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo Nam. Myoho Renge Kyo Nam. Myoho Renge Kyo Nam. I brought up monkey mind and monkeys today. I know I have one or two videos already on my YouTube channel specifically about monkeys. So if you want to know more about that, please check those out. And if you have any input on that or anything I've said today, please use the comment section. I learn from you. And you make me a better teacher. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to Jim Nowak, who has become a patron. Really appreciate your support. Any of you who want to join in, who can, you support me simply by asking questions and watching these videos. It's my life mission to make this Buddhism accessible. But if you can, throw $1 or a few dollars my way every month. Really helps to make this happen in all sorts of little ways, even if it's just to pay for my internet connection. So go to patreon.com/TLK. That's Threefold Lotus Kwun, TLK. And you'll get all these videos, plus some written stuff that I put up every now and again for free. A lot of the videos will require that you're a patron. So rest assured, you can always see my videos here on YouTube until, I mean, they demonetized me on YouTube. So, I lost, when they decided to do that, they didn't pay up on what I'd accrued. They just threw it in their bank. But that aside, it's still a free platform for you and for me to communicate. So I'm very thankful for that. Again, Patreon is there only as a means, as another outlet for information, but also a means for you to participate in keeping this going. And I value that tremendously. So thank you very much. With that, we'll close today's talk, and I'll talk to you soon. We'll finish chapter 17. Thanks again.